Hello and welcome to the Musty Creative Podcast. Here on video, I am your host, Jesús, and I am joined by my friend and yours,
Michelle.
Yes, so for those of you who are just listening, we have a video version of this on our YouTube channel. We are trying a new thing. We are recording video and audio at the same time. I think we did it before, maybe once before at the old apartment.
I think so.
But this is like our new setup. I don't know how long it's going to stay, but it's here. And we're here with you today. We are the Musty Collective, creatives on a journey to better storytelling. Thank you for joining us today, even though it's musty in here. Today, we are going to talk about the 2023 summer movies. And we're not going to talk about all of them, just ones that we watched together. And we're going to do a little bit of ranking here. So without further ado, let's start the show. Welcome to the show. Michelle, how are you doing today?
Honestly, I'm very tired. I slept in and I'm still exhausted.
Well, there you go. There you have it. And I am here.
Yes.
In your world. We're really glad for you to be here. We haven't done a podcast in a while, so we're going to be a little rusty. But we are podcasting professionals. We have over 140 episodes on the Musty Creative Podcast. You can find it at mustycreative.com and podcasting platforms around the globe. See, I stole that from Kind of Funny Games. Anyways, we're going to start with the first movie. We're going to go from worst to best. Now, it doesn't mean this movie is bad, but we're going to say from worst to best. First movie on the docket is
Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken.
Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. Take a bow. Take a bow. The logline says, a shy adolescent learns that she comes from a fabled royal family of legendary sea krakens and that her destiny lies in the depths of the waters, which is bigger than she could have ever imagined. I mean, honestly, this sounds fake. This sounds fake, to be honest. But we did watch this movie. We watched it on Peacock. We didn't watch it on the theatrical release. Thank you, Peacock, for not sponsoring the show, but for providing the movie pretty soon after the theatrical release. Mm-hmm. This is an anime movie by DreamWorks and distributed by Universal Studios. Has a theatrical runtime of 1 hour and 32 minutes. Has a PG rating. And yeah, Michelle, your thoughts after you finished the film?
Okay, it was like a feel-good movie, and there were moments that made me laugh. So that was good.
True. True.
I did really appreciate the animation. I thought that was really cool. And the way that they casted everybody, there was like really good voice acting done. But I felt a few times, take that back, I predicted a few times what the next line would be or what the next beat would be in the story. And that was a little frustrating to me because it felt very formulaic and like I could just predict the entire movie.
Yes. Yeah, so there were some cool things. The character designs were amazing. The environments were amazing. Mm-hmm. The voice acting was good. Sometimes it was a little overdone. Like you could tell like that's that actor from that thing. But from a general standpoint, like Ruby and her immediate family, her brother, her mother, and her dad, especially her dad and her brother, had a lot of character, a lot of personality to them. And her mom had a really cool backstory. And Ruby Gillman was this cool, like blue-looking kind of creature, but pretend to be a human. Now, with any of these type of movies, my concern that came up very immediately was she's in the human world. She's fallen in love with a human boy. How is that really going to work romantically? We don't have to get into it that much. But it was kind of weird that they do these movies where they set up these creatures or these aliens to be like, I'm romantically involved with another human being. And I'm like, yes, you can love them, but can you love them?
Or like the person's going to find out eventually when they do get to that stage of the relationship. Yeah. So you have to admit who you are at some point. But
yeah, so I wasn't really motivated for Ruby to get with the guy that she was after. Mm-hmm. But again, it was cool. Her friends and her reasoning to want to be popular and to ask the boy out of her dreams and then to ultimately defeat the mermaids, which was like the biggest splash, right? And all of you out there watched my trailer reaction to Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken over 26,000 times on the channel, and you blew it up. You immediately just blew it up. And I did have a controversial take. I did think this movie could be better than The Little Mermaid, but in the end, it wasn't. This movie had a production budget of $70 million and globally grossed $46.1 million. So it lost money. And apparently, according to ChatGPT, the film's underperformance led to projections of an $80 million loss for Universal Pictures, making it one of the lowest grossing films from DreamWorks Animation. Ouch. But again, the anticipation was real. Like compared to summer box office animation feature films, Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken had more going for it before the theatrical release than a film like Elemental.
True. But we went to VidCon in 2023, which was really great.
Yes, we did.
And there was a section, there were like ongoing talks like in between different expos and stuff. And one of the talks was with the main character of this film.
And oh, yeah, you got to see that one.
Yeah, I went to that talk because I'm interested in animation and all that stuff. And there weren't that many people in the audience. I mean, it was being live broadcasted for people that bought that membership. But I was surprised at how empty it was. And yeah, I was just like, where is everybody? There were other talks that I went to later where you literally had to get there like 2 hours ahead of time to just be in the front row. And it was packed, but that one was like empty. So I was like, is this a sign of how well the movie's going to do? And I guess it was.
That's true. That's true. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Ruby characters, Ruby Gillman's character arc, Michelle, do you believe it was thoroughly fleshed out?
It felt very rushed. The whole film felt rushed to me. Like they only had a certain amount of time and they were trying to jump ahead to get through every beat. Because they did have every beat there. They weren't missing anything.
That's true.
But the way they got there was so fast that I didn't have time to really enjoy the moment as it was happening.
Yeah, from the time where she met her uncle and convinced him to take her to her grandmama. I think that's how she pronounced it, but I could be wrong. From that moment then to the moment where she had her final battle with the Little Mermaid Ariel lookalike character, from those 2 moments, it was very, very fast.
Yeah.
Her training was super fast. The montage of her like trying to break through and get her, I guess not the Kraken, but the triumvirate weapon. It's like a trident. The trident, yes. When they got the trident, that whole montage was like super, super fast. And I agree. Like the beats were there, but it wasn't fully fleshed out.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So number 5 on the list. That was number 6. Number 5 on the list is
The Little Mermaid.
The Little Mermaid, back to back.
Yeah, so this is a live action adaptation of the animated film from 1989. And it had a very different looking Ariel this time, which I thought was great. The runtime was 135 minutes and it premiered on May 26th. It grossed over 569 million worldwide. But what was your reaction when you saw the movie?
Yeah, so I saw it as early as possible.
You saw it before I did.
Yes, I saw it before Michelle did. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. I know that people will think like no, that's not true. That's not possible. But it's actually possible to enjoy that film. And I'm not remembering any of the actors' names, so I'm not going to even try. But the young woman who played Ariel, she was a black woman, but she did a great job. Her voice was amazing. She hit all the notes for me when it came to music and then some, because her voice was just popping, like on note. Mm-hmm. But I do think when it comes to adapting animation to live action, we've seen this multiple times. It's not just The Little Mermaid's fault. But I still haven't seen Cinderella, so that's the only one I can't talk to. But if you see it in Aladdin, you see it in The Lion King, it's hard to really get to those small emotional moments that were so key in the animated movies from before. Mm-hmm. And so there are some great pieces of scenery when they try to do the set environment on the island, when Prince Eric and Ariel have the day to themselves and kind of fall in love and have all those romantic dates around the island. There's some good moments when they're dancing with the other islanders. That was really cool. Mm-hmm. And then when they do the cha la 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 la, and they're in the boat, that wasn't as convincing. But then they had a beautiful moment after the boat capsized, and they're kind of like laying there on the boat all wet and stuff. And they had a little moment where they're flirting, and I actually believed the chemistry between the two actors in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the chemistry was good. It took me a while to get into it. Like, when I first started watching the movie, I was just like, okay, they're just all like reenacting the cartoon. I kind of like didn't feel like, okay, this is a real Ariel in a real ocean and she's experiencing all these things. So I definitely had to warm up to everything. It was nothing to do with me judging the film, because I was really hoping it was going to be great, and I really loved the trailer, and I was super excited and got chills and everything when the teaser trailer came out. Yes. And so, yeah, I thought it was really exciting to go see it. And I was actually kind of mad that he saw it first without me. I was like, he saw it without me. But, yeah, like when I actually went and sat down in the theater, I was like, oh. And I like, it really took a while to, like, get used to it. And then when I did start warming up to it, I think it was towards the middle of the movie. That's when I started getting into it.
When she was on the island?
Yeah, but then the ending felt super rushed.
Oh.
To me, at least.
I disagree.
Yeah, it just, like, when Ursula came back as the fake bride or whatever, the person that was taking over.
Right.
It just felt very, I don't know, disjointed. Or I don't know if it's just the way the story is, but it felt kind of weird to me. I don't know.
Well, two scenes I'll give you that I do think the pacing could have been a little bit slower, or just don't do the scene at all. Mm-hmm. They did the final scene where Ariel waves goodbye to her father and the other mer people and everyone else on the island. Yeah. And you're like doing that kind of Pocahontas thing, but everyone's doing it instead of just Pocahontas kind of thing. And to be honest, it just looked weird. The mer people just look weird when they were outside of the water, so that was just a weird CG thing. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I would have wanted them. Look weird. Yeah, I would have wanted them just to cut that scene altogether. Yeah. And just have Ariel and Eric on the boat. I don't know when, and just, I don't know how, but I know something's starting right now. Like, they could have just done something like that on the boat. And it's like, oh, they're on the honeymoon. Watch and you'll see. Anyways, the music is so good.
Or they could have maybe done a goodbye with everyone in the water.
No mer people. Just them two on the boat. And then, so that scene, that needed to be out of the movie, or again, completely changed up. Second scene, I think the one you're talking about, though, is when she snatches the little pearl necklace out of the fake bride, out of Ursula's neck, off of her neck, and then essentially expose her for the witch that she is. Mm-hmm. That could have breathed a little bit more. Yeah. And I really wanted that, like, that whole, like, return of her voice moment to be, like, a little bit longer, paced out, slower, and just this huge moment so on screen so we can all root for her and be glad. But again, it happened really quickly. Like, it was like she walked up to the scene, she saw Eric with the fake bride, then it was like nighttime, she came out, snatched it. It was just like really quick. Yeah. So I agree on that. Mm-hmm. But to the benefit of this movie, the three little friends like Scuttle and Sebastian and Flounder not as much, but Scuttle and Sebastian played by
Awkwafina
and Daveed Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
I remember those actors. Amazing.
Those were that was almost my favorite part.
That was exactly was my favorite. They were hilarious. Like, actually, I want to go back and watch it again because they were so funny. Like, I could get a whole movie with just those three hanging out together, and then maybe trying to save Flounder from being eaten or something.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. I want a movie just with those two in live action.
And I did like Flounder. He was a gross fish, but he's a fish.
True. True words. But yeah, the movie grossed over $560 million worldwide. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like, as far as its budget, it still was a huge budget in the marketing, but it made some money. It wasn't a flop or a failure, not whatsoever, from a theatrical release perspective. Mm-hmm. All right. So, we haven't been asking these questions, but for Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, does that movie kindle love in your opinion, Michelle?
No.
Why?
I don't know. It just kept setting up like us against them kind of a thing.
For Ruby Gillman?
Yeah, like for the mermaids and the krakens, like there was never like we're finally resolving this feud between the two.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, the
mermaids are evil.
The krakens are better than mermaids, and that's it.
Yeah. No, that's true. And it doesn't mean the movie's bad, but just as far as our theme of kindling love for all humankind.
And then what about The Little Mermaid?
I'm going to say no for me too, just because it's a beautiful movie and I like it, but it doesn't inspire love for me. It's the themes are completely different. Mm-hmm. And it's more of a coming to age story. Mm-hmm. And there's no like redemption for Ursula.
True.
So it is what it is. I'm not saying that's bad. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Next movie is Oppenheimer. So this is our third movie. So we're coming down to the really good movies in the summer. Mm-hmm. And Oppenheimer is in the middle here. I know a lot of you will be mad because a lot of you love Christopher Nolan, and I love Christopher Nolan. But Oppenheimer, it was great.
It was a great movie.
Until I watched Killers of the Flower Moon, I thought that Oppenheimer would actually be Best Picture for the Oscars next year. But I watched Killers of the Flower Moon, and so that has changed. But Oppenheimer is pretty awesome. The logline is an epic biographical thriller about J. Robert Oppenheimer, the American theoretical physicist credited as the father of the atomic bomb, focusing on his role in the Manhattan Project during World War II and its subsequent fall from grace. Produced and distributed by Universal Pictures, right? So Universal, Ruby Gillman kind of flopped, but they had Oppenheimer, and that's pretty good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I love the film. It was very thought-provoking. It left you with a lot of questions. There was a lot of like visuals where you saw what was going on in his head, like all of the anxiousness he was feeling.
It really got you. You still had an adverse reaction to that.
I was coughing. But like, yeah, like when I saw like those moments, it made him very relatable, I feel like, because in other moments he was very cold, kind of the way he was acting.
But those moments were very raw.
Yes. A
little too raw, personally, for me.
They were like trying to be extreme with that, but
I definitely think Christopher Nolan was going for more of the artist role. I think the amount of nudity in the movie was unnecessary, getting the point across.
But it was also an adaptation from a book, right?
That's fine, but you can still make your own choices for the film.
True.
I don't think it was necessary to have any nudity in the film. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a movie about a scientist, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. But do you think, like, out of all of Christopher Nolan's films, where does this one rank?
Oh, that's a good question. I still need to see some of his other films, like Memento. And I know I need to watch Memento, but I haven't seen it.
It's so good.
For me, it doesn't rank high. I'm still still gonna say Interstellar is his best film to date, and it's still a tragedy that I don't even think the film got nominated that year for the Oscars, and it definitely didn't win. I think it could have won. I think it should have won. I think Christopher Nolan did an amazing job with bringing in the theme and the technology and the science all intertwined into the story and the plot. It was an amazing film. Still think it's his best film as of to date. And so I don't think Oppenheimer comes close to that. It is better than, what's the name of the last film we watched? Not Tenant?
Yes.
Tenant. It's better than that film for sure.
Oh, true, yeah.
That's probably his worst film to date because it was just so confusing.
Yeah.
But Oppenheimer is good, and I enjoyed it, and it was a marvelous experience. We got to see it in IMAX, in 70 millimeter, and so that was amazing to see. I think that's the way to watch it.
Yeah,
music was great. The performances were really, really good, and the whole story about him as a scientist and then joining this military project to create the atom bomb. I mean, I'll be honest, it was hard to root for him because now we live in this post atom bomb world, and it's almost as if it would have been better not to have been created. But I know from a military standpoint, it would be better not to sacrifice all those soldiers. I totally get that. It's just now we live with nuclear weapons, but again, it might have been created by another country. It's complicated.
Yeah.
And but the whole thing with his take on having to fight to clear his name with the U.S. government afterwards, they pretty much tried to destroy him and say he was a communist sympathizer. And I was like, that actually was the most interesting thing for me in the film, was recognizing how much anti-communist behavior there was in the States back in those days.
Yeah. And then also too, I mean, there was the Nolan twist at the end.
Really? What was the Nolan twist?
It was that Matt Damon's character was actually the antagonist. Because they kind of made it like he was.
No, not Matt Damon's character.
Yeah.
It's the guy, Tony Stark, the guy who plays Iron Man.
Oh, no, yeah.
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr., sorry. Yeah,
That's right.
Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
was the antagonist.
Yeah.
And they were making him seem like he wasn't, but
at the beginning, yeah.
But they did have that little breadcrumb where like he had that conversation with Mark Twain, and he's like, "Wait, what did he say?"
Albert Einstein.
I'm very tired today.
It's okay.
I am so tired. Albert Einstein.
Yes, and he was all pissy because
he
felt he got dissed by the cool science guys.
Yes.
And he blamed Oppenheimer for that diss.
Yes. But I just thought that was very relatable to me.
Why was it relatable?
Because I am also a scientist. No. I'm I'm joking. It was relatable because I have the tendency to think that people think poorly of me. And so when if I were in that situation and I saw somebody like acting that way, and then all of a sudden the person's just not talking to me after I'm like trying to be friendly with them, I would immediately think that they were talking about me and that it wasn't something good. Yeah,
no, I definitely have done that. I've been on both sides of it. And it just comes down to the fact of, and it's hard to recognize this and internalize it and move forward with it. But at some point you're like, you know what? Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to respect you. And you can't just like destroy other people's lives for it.
Well, I wouldn't do the destroying part, but like the people pleaser in me wants everyone to like me.
I feel you. We're in agreement on that. We're in agreement on that. So does this movie kindle love, Michelle?
I think in a weird way it does.
I want to hear this take.
Because it is kind of it's an example of what love isn't. And it's showing the consequences of that.
You talk about Oppenheimer's relationships with women?
Well, that, but also like the whole bomb thing.
Okay.
Like
okay.
they were saying, "Oh, we're not gonna use this bomb. It's just like a thing. It's just a thing we're making to like threaten them and blah blah blah."
That's funny.
And then they actually used the bomb, and he was like, "I was not expecting this."
I
And
think
so,
that was so naive. If that's
yeah.
true, that is the most naivete.
Yeah. So like his just realization of what he had done and the people that he had killed, the innocent people that he had killed, I think in a way it's like, in a weird backwards way, it did kindle love in him, and it made him want to be a better person after that. So for you, does this movie kindle love?
No. Next movie.
Okay, Elemental, an animated romantic comedy drama set in a world inhabited by anthropomorphic elements of nature. The story follows fire element Ember Lumen and water element Wade Ripple in their efforts to save a convenience store.
Okay, so just for context, we did Ruby Gilman. We're going worst to best. Then we did Little Mermaid. Then we did Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
Then we did Elemental. So in our opinion, Elemental is better than Oppenheimer. I just want to say that because I'm triggering somebody out here. That's funny.
Oh, man.
That's funny. But yeah, this movie was great. This movie, if you watch my trailer reaction, I'm like not excited for this movie at all. I think everyone thought this was going to be a dumpster fire. No one thought this was going to be amazing.
Yes.
No one really wanted to see it in the theaters, but we just decided to watch it together.
Because we did want to see it, because we have that love for Pixar.
We have that love for Pixar. And we saw it, and we came in the movie theater feeling inspired, feeling overjoyed. It was actually a really good romantic comedy movie.
Made me cry.
Made Michelle cry, and the animation was beautiful. There are some things that are not perfect about it. This is not Pixar's best film, but when people talk about, when I hear people like, "Oh, Pixar's dead, Pixar's dying," you know, it's like, yeah, they're not dying. They came out with a really well-received film. It did not make as much money as they would have liked it to have made, but it was unique, kind of. It was at least a fresher take than what they've been doing. It was way better than Lightyear, which came out last year.
True.
And I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think, and also, too, like, when it did come out on streaming, it was the highest viewed movie, right? On Disney
for a
Plus.
while.
Yeah.
For a while.
So it was actually #1 on streaming. But I think it was a great story, and it was about immigration and, like, living as a family of immigration and, like,
interracial dating,
which we kind of relate.
I don't think we don't have any understanding of what that means.
So it was interesting to see the differences between the two families, and how
the water people and the fire people.
The water people and the fire people. And Jesus and I still argue about which one of us would be which. We both have different opinions on that.
She's Ember and I'm Wade. That's how it is.
No, that's not how I see it. But anyway.
That's just the truth.
It is not the truth. But do you think, so you don't think this was Pixar's worst movie?
No.
What was
Pixar's worst movie is The Good Dinosaur, without a shadow of a doubt. Which is interesting though, because the director, like they do that co-director thing, but the director for Good Dinosaur is the same director for Elemental. Mm-hmm. And it was a very personal story for him. For Elemental, he based it really on his own journey and his parents' journey. Mm-hmm. So it was excellent. It was a great film. Again, the marketing for it and the trailers, like, it just didn't inspire any excitement for me. I really thought this was going to be another bad film. Again, because Lightyear wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. It was like barely good. And I was just worried for Pixar because, again, I want Pixar to succeed. And when I saw the final result, I was like, yeah, this is actually a great film. It grossed over $490 million worldwide. So not a flop. Again, like, if it's a flop, we're looking at like something like Ruby Gilman. So again, the narrative's out there, but the facts, come on, guys, let's just be real about it. Disney did some decent stuff this year.
Yeah. So did this film kindle love?
Yes. This is the first film I'm going to say kindled love
Definitely.
in my heart. Most definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
And now, yeah, me too. Next film.
No.
I do. Before we go to the next one, I just want to say there are a couple scenes that are really awesome that I thought were great. Right, so we have this when they first kind of are starting to talk to each other. They go to the cloud basketball game, and let's see, Wade Ripple's like he sees that one of the cloud players is sad and he's depressed because his mom is sick, and everyone's like booing him, and he's like, I love you lots. I love you lots. It's like very like, bro, chillax. Like, go down to 0, please, because you're at a 20 right now. And he's like crying. He's like, we love you lots. And then like he gets the whole crowd to do it with him, and they do like the wave. Mm-hmm. That was cool. Like that took a human element and like made it elemental, right? That was good. That was good because that was one of my problems with the trailer was it seems very basic of a story. Why are elements in a human-based city world for the first place? So they had some cool elements. Another one that I really enjoyed was they had this like secret date at night, and Wade brought Ember to an underground museum where she could see a special flower, and with the help of a cloud friend, they created like a little air bubble so she could go down under the water. And they had a really cool moment where she saw the flowers. Then that cool moment instantly transformed into a very serious, dangerous moment. Like you see in the scene the transitions from love and understanding and peace and calm, and then switch to danger and frustration and fear. And then they got out safely. Nothing happened to Ember, but then that moment kind of furthered them to come closer together. They touched and had this beautiful moment where they're dancing, and their light as they dance became like this shining, shimmering globe of love and trust and beauty. And that was just amazing. So I just want to like hint at those two scenes. A final scene, again, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, when Wade invites Ember over to his house. She meets his family, and they have the crying game. And Ember, as a person of fire, like, we don't cry. I've never cried. Blah blah blah. Which means that she's actually psychotic. You know, she's never cried in her entire life. But that's another topic for another day. But she finally does cry because Wade hits her really hard with a story, and then the whole family's like, oh. And you could tell in that moment that right there, without words being said, Ember was in love with Wade Ripple. I thought, man. Beautiful. Great writing, great animation. So just want to say, great movie.
Mm-hmm. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
Logline, an animated superhero film featuring Miles Morales, the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It explores the multiverse with a team of spider people facing a new threat, the Spot.
The Spot. All right, so again, worst of the best for us. We have 6 films to talk about, so that means we have one more. We started with Ruby Gillman, then we went to Little Mermaid, then Oppenheimer, then Elemental, and now Spider-Verse Across the Spider-Verse. Produced and distributed by Columbia Pictures, Sony Pictures Animation, Marvel Entertainment, and Sony Pictures Releasing. But yeah, mainly who we want to talk about is Sony Pictures Animation. Another banger by Sony Pictures Animation. They've really, in the past, let's say 3 years, have risen as a true powerhouse next to Pixar, next to DreamWorks, and now Sony Animation. Like the triple triune threat of animation in the North America geographical location of the world, right? And with this movie, they did so many core things of extending, showing why we needed a sequel for the great movie that was Into the Spider-Verse, extending the character of Miles Morales, but really bringing to light his other protagonist character, his side piece, his potential girlfriend, his romantic partner.
I don't like side piece.
Okay, fine. You know, but Spider-Gwen, right? It was as much as it was Miles' movie, it was definitely Spider-Gwen's movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was interesting that it started with her story, and it gave like this whole backstory to her. But I think now that I'm thinking of it far away from the memory of when I first saw both movies. That made sense in my head when I thought about it. But like, I think it's to really create a firm foundation for the love story of those two in the last film. Because it might have felt a little like out of place. Like, why is it focusing so much on Gwen? But I think when we finally get to the ending, you're going to care a whole lot more about her as a character. And whenever, I don't know, maybe something bad is going to happen, or maybe something great will happen, but either way, it's going to like rip your heart out and make you feel all kinds of goodiness.
I'm kind of confused. What are you talking about? You're using a lot of like hand gesture movements in your speak. What are you saying?
What do you mean?
You're like, well, this if something bad could happen.
I don't
at the end of the movie.
The thing I'm saying is I don't know what's gonna happen at the end.
Are you saying because this is a part 1 of 2 parts?
Yes.
So we don't really know what's gonna happen until we see part 2.
Yes.
Okay, but they're clearly like in a relationship entanglement of some kind. They're not official. They're not public, but they're definitely like eyeing each other. They're like in their minds they're together.
Yes.
Right? And it's clear Miles has been fantasizing about Gwen. Gwen has been fantasizing about Miles, right? We just say it as it is. It is what it is. But outside the romantic part of it, this whole storyline of you can't break the core logic or the core scenes of a spider person's journey. They have to lose the Uncle Ben. Yeah. They have to lose the dad. They have to lose somebody. And you can't have it both ways or you break the continuum. Yes. Right? That is the core question posed. Can Miles save his dad without breaking the rest of the Spider-Verse? Right? And it's that true contention. Now, from a story perspective, I'm so excited to see part 2. But I'm actually kind of miffed about the movie because it's okay if you have a part 2, but it felt like it was just cut. At a good point, it was cut, but it was just so many more questions I had. And the pace in the movie was so like, bam, bam, quick. Miles, make a decision. I'm going to go save my dad. And it was hard. It was hard to kind of really enjoy because when we get to that scene in, I don't know the name of this spider person, but he's like in India spider person. That was amazing. Great dialogue, great comedy, still funny, and great action pieces and things like that. But when his world starts falling apart because they saved his core people, I wanted to like go back and see if his world was okay. Is there actually a result there? Like it just seemed like once we got there, then we got to the whole chase. Then he got kicked out. Then he got into the wrong verse, and now we're stuck at the end of the movie. It seemed a little fast to me. I'm not saying the movie should have been longer, but I think it could have been plotted differently.
But then would it have felt too rushed if it did try to have some sort of an ending?
Well, this is my controversial take. I think the movie was too focused on Spider-Gwen, and we could have used those minutes to focus back on Miles. And I just think Miles is the actual central character. It's cool that Gwen is sharing the platform with Miles. I'm not saying that's bad, but it took away from a full enjoyment of the film. And that's just my point of view on that one. But
I thought it was fine because it was, I don't know, it did feel like, wow, this movie is really long and we're not even close to an end yet. And then when the cliffhanger came, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it wasn't even that long. It's just an hour and 40 minutes. So just a touch over 2 hours. And I mean, that is long, but compared to Oppenheimer, that is much longer. So anyways, we'll see what happens in part 2. Yes. So Across the Spider-Verse grossed almost $700 billion, almost $700 million worldwide. But I'm a little disappointed by that number because I think it's better than the first film, but this film should have grossed $1 billion. I think that's fair enough to say. Like, why aren't we supporting this film? I see a lot of love for it on the internet, and people say, hey, why don't people put out good films that people love and have great animation, have great storytelling and great characters? Okay, then support it with your wallet, right? We're not voting well here. We're not voting well here. So I'm just gonna put that out there. But did this movie kindle love for you, Michelle?
I think it did, because it was talking about like how Miles is willing to do anything to save his dad, and he loves his dad, and so I feel like it's talking about like fighting against what the world tells you for what you know is the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's a great way to sum up the theme for that movie. That's a great way to sum it up. For me, I don't think this movie kindles love, but I really enjoy the movie a lot. So it doesn't mean it's a bad movie. I don't think it kindles love. That's just me.
Okay.
That's me personally.
Okay.
All right. So number one movie of the summer for us.
Yes.
Is
Barbie.
Barbie.
So the log line is a fantastical comedy journey where Barbie and Ken, amidst an existential crisis, embark on an adventure of self-discovery.
Yes, and I would, in times past in our podcast, I would bring out my phone and play a little bit of music, like "Hey Bobby, hey." But maybe for another podcast, because the music was phenomenal. That was another thing I didn't get to mention before. So great movie, directed and written by Greta Gerwig and co-written with her partner Noah Baumbach, starring Margot Robbie as Barbie, Ryan Gosling as Ken. I'm just Ken, with a supporting cast including America Ferrera, Kate McKinnon, Issa Rae, Rhea Perlman, and Will Ferrell. I don't know if Will Ferrell is that high on the list, but I guess he did have a big role.
He's a big name, so they want to put him up there, you know.
He was kind of annoying. I'd rather have on the names list some of the other Kens, because some of the other Kens were amazing. Like Simu Liu, he was awesome. And one of the best scenes in all of moviedom was the beach scene where they beached it off and the Kens fought each other. Like, that was amazing.
Or they beached it off.
I mean, because they were talking it, and Simu Liu said, "I'll beach both of you off."
True.
Right? And they talked that game. They talked that mess. And then they all found out what really was about to happen.
Yep.
So that was really awesome.
True.
114 minutes running. So again, not a very long film, just a little bit under 20 minutes. 2 hours. And for a budget of $128 to $145 million. So Greta kept that budget tight. And it grossed a box office globally of $1.4 billion to beat Mario and to be the top grossing film of the year globally and in America. Boom, baby. I mean, Barbie, what a brand.
And it was the highest grossing Warner Brothers film ever.
Of all time.
Ever.
You Dallas Cowboys fans will know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. That's where I got it from. It's all the culture. It's all the culture. But yeah, it's just amazing what this film did. And again, talk about Ken, but talk about Barbie and the existential crisis that she went through, the patriarchy that she went through with Ken and the Kens, and the idea of also her self-image and who she was and being acceptant of who she was. Like, I had heard of what cellulite was, but I actually got example of what cellulite was in the movie. I was like, oh, so that's why women don't want cellulite. Like, I didn't get that before. I was like, I don't know.
So you've learned something from this movie.
Yes. I mean, men get cellulite too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's all good, you know?
But women are shamed for having it. That's the difference.
Are women shamed by other women, or are women shamed by other men?
Both.
Because I've never shamed a woman for cellulite. And I've never heard my guy friends shame a woman for cellulite. I mean, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But I'm just saying, I do wonder about that shaming. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, okay.
But there are some controversies in this film, because this is what Greta and the marketing team did so well, is that it looked like, I think a lot of people were like, oh, is this going to be like a Barbie, just like a American typical femme fatale kind of movie. Maybe harkening back to older 80s and 90s movies. And then what they got was a lot more diverse, a lot more progressive. But I thought it was done so well. It didn't feel like pandering, and it felt like it checked boxes without having to feel like it checked boxes.
Yeah, but a lot of people were offended by it.
Yes, but we don't need to go into what those people were thinking.
Yeah.
Because again, if your life is ruined by a movie, look, I'm a Star Wars fan and I don't like The Last Jedi. But my life isn't ruined by it. That's all I'm trying to say.
True.
All right. So anyways, box office success though, like we said, record-breaking box office success for a live-action Barbie film. Again, I did not think when I first heard about this film, one, that it should be made. Two, when I saw the trailers and the beach scenes from the set, that it's going to be amazing. And just like I had pretty low expectations, but I thought it would be a fun movie. And the soundtrack popped off, and it was just amazing from that point on.
Yeah, it was really great. I think a lot of people were affected by it in a good way.
Yes.
Women were breaking up with their boyfriends. People were like changing their lifestyles because of this. I think definitely like the overall message of like women empowerment really came across, and it also was talking a lot about like just being a woman, being a human, and what that means, and like really diving into this idea of like just being okay in your own skin and not having to live up to this standard of perfection. And like women can be complex. They don't have to be this 2D character that's like totally perfect and blemish free. They can be messy, and they can also be amazing at the same time. So I think that was really important. But do you think the message got across?
I definitely think the message got across, which is why I think people were triggered by it, but also a lot of people praised it and had a great time. And even if you can't utter words to describe your feelings for it, there is like a general feeling that the movie touched you when you left the theater. And I think this is an example of why movies or film as a medium of storytelling are so important and have so much power and influence. Because just without all these films, like I'd say outside of like Elemental and Spider-Verse, like the other films were films, but those films touched you in a certain kind of way. And in no other film this summer did that more than Barbie. True. And that's just a credit to Greta Gerwig. If anything else, she may not win Best Picture, but she should darn well win Best Director this year. I don't see how she cannot win Best Director. Like the way she managed the set and the way that she managed the budget. I mean, again, Killers of the Flower Moon is probably going to win Best Picture, but that was a $200 million movie production budget. And it had no business being a $200 million production budget. Like that's a Marvel level movie with not Marvel level graphics. So I don't understand that. I just think Greta did such an amazing job, and then also co-writing, also directing. I mean, give her the award. You know what I'm saying? Just give her the award. It was amazing.
Yeah. So does this movie kindle love?
Oh yeah. I don't. I'm gonna say yes. As a man, I have learned to appreciate and love women more for who they are, and not for who I want them to be. And that is always amazing. And yes, like you said, I hope that this film has kindled women of all ages and all ethnicities to love themselves for who they are, and not for what other people want them to be.
Yes.
But I do want to talk about, just for a quick moment, the fact that the Billie Eilish existential scene where Barbie says to the creator, hey, I don't want to be who I want to be. I want to be a human. I want to have a finite life. And then she just like tells her, well, just hold my hand, close your eyes, and then just breathe and then feel. And then you have that montage. And you're getting steamy right now just thinking about it, aren't you? But it's crazy what that scene is so good.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. And again, just in your own context, in your own mind, in your own lore or headcanon, what does that scene mean for you? I would love to find out from people throughout the world. Like for me, I mean, it kind of speaks to, in a sense, even Christianity, of like telling God, like, hey, I'm not happy being who I want to be. I want to be someone else, right? Like whether that's good or bad or whatever, it's like it leads to big questions about finding yourself and being who you want to be. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So that's our list. Came down to Barbie being number 1 for us during the summer. And there's some other films that are great, such as the Ninja Turtles movie. But we didn't put on the list because Michelle hadn't seen it.
True.
So that's why I didn't get on the list.
True.
Anyways, thank you for joining us today. We will not be putting out a Women King Roundtable podcast. This will be our last podcast for the year. But follow us on Patreon and our YouTube channel so that you will know what's going on with us. And we will see you in 2024.
And if you want to be featured as a guest on our show in 2024, email us at themustycreative@gmail.com.
And thanks to our monthly supporters for helping us make this episode of the Musty Creative podcast possible. If you would like to become a financial supporter of the show, visit our Patreon page at Musty Creative at patreon.com/mustycreative and help make this show even better. And that's all the time we have for. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Now it's time to. I just want to say before I say that final line, I just want to say it's good to be back podcasting with you, Michelle.
Oh, thank you.
And I hope to our listeners and our community, you're glad to hear us back again. Sorry for the long wait, but here is our podcast. Anyways, now it's time to shower up.